Dr. Nicholas Lardy is a professor of international economics. Very smart guy, much smarter than I am. That's why I wanted him on the program. And where am I going wrong here, Doctor?
Well, Bill, you're right. The U.S. does have leverage, but China has some leverage as well. And it's not clear to me that we're going to necessarily win in this contest. China is in a position where if their exports to the U.S. fall, they can offset that loss of demand by increasing their fiscal expenditure, loosening their monetary policy. It won't be perfect, but they can offset part of the loss of export revenue.
But that's short term. They can't do that long term. They got 1.5 billion people. And those factories start to turn down. Those people don't have 401ks, Doctor. They don't have anything in the bank. That's communists. They live from week to week.
They can do it for quite a while. On the other hand, the United States depends on China for some goods that we can't produce here and we can't source from other countries. So I think our adjustment may be a little bit more challenging.
Give me an example of some of those goods that we can't source from another country.
Rare earths is far and away the best example. China has almost a complete monopoly on the refining of rare earths, which are
central. That's why Trump wants to deal with Greenland, right?
It will be a decade before you get any rare earths out of Greenland.
Okay, but that's the reason, right?
That's part of it, certainly, yes.
All right. And let's get back to
let me go back to what you said about 401ks. Another reason the Chinese are not in such a tough position is their pension system does not depend on the stock market in China. In the U.S., we see a lot of people panicking because their 401ks are going down in value. They're cutting back on their expenditure.
No, that's a given. I mean, there's no free investment in China at all, except for the oligarchs. But you said that they can sustain supporting their own population, again, 1.5 billion for a while. You know that the Chinese deficit now, the deficit spending over there is at a record high. I mean, their whole yuan going to collapse if they can't get out of this trade war with Trump. It's going to collapse. Nobody's going to want their money. You know that.
Yes, you're right. They do have a current deficit, but their government debt compared to that of the United States is very small. They've got some headroom.
But again, we have an economic machine that generates trillions of dollars. They don't have that. They're dependent on selling stuff to us, to Southeast Asia and the EU. Believe me when I tell you, Doctor, that part of the deal that Trump's going to make with the EU is, we're going to cut back a little on your China exports, right? And the EU goes, okay, that's what's going to happen,
Maybe, but all I'm saying is the leverage is not entirely on the U.S. side.
No, and I agree with that. It's dangerous, ultra dangerous. What about the war machine? Are you worried about the Chinese war machine?
Well, they're ramping up their military expenditures, and it's been going on for a decade. Quite frankly, not very much of it is financed by the 600 or 700 billion we send to China. They have their domestic economy is 12, 13 trillion. So a few hundred billion coming from the United States is not a decisive factor.
But if they want to buy tech and stuff like that, they got to buy it with dollars. The yuan's not going to. People aren't going to sell them stuff for their currency. They can operate within their borders with that. But if they want to go out, they have to pay dollars.
They have an industrial complex that produces most of their military equipment. They're not buying a lot of sophisticated military equipment on the international market. They don't need dollars to build up their military strength.
No, I disagree with that 100% because I know what they're doing with Star Wars and these drones up there and the space stuff and all of those high-tech weapons. They're not self-sufficient in that area.
They're a leader in drones. And producing them domestically.
Yeah, but they need parts to produce it. They need all of that tech to produce it. Now, what about Apple? Apple is going to probably pull out of China. How badly is Apple going to hurt them?
Well, the question I would say is how bad is Apple going to be hurt by Trump's tariffs? Their market in the U.S. is going to collapse when the price of iPhones doubles or triples.
All right, I don't disagree with that. Apple's going to get hurt, but they're going to find a way to bring down their costs. It's a pretty genius company. So the scenario that you're portraying is that China has much more advantage and that Trump's foolish to go up against them and should have just left everything alone. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm saying that Trump is overestimating his leverage. He certainly has some leverage. He may prevail in the end. I'm not forecasting that he's going to fail, but I think he's probably overestimating his leverage. It's a more uncertain outcome, I would say, than what you're portraying.
Do you think that Xi wants this confrontation?
No, I don't think he does.
Do you think he's willing then to deal?
Well, his people have said they're willing to come to the negotiating table, but they're not going to do it if they have to make a whole lot of concessions.
So they're going to keep the unfair trade thing in place no matter what?
Yeah, they will make some concessions in a balanced negotiation, but I don't think they're going to put themselves in the same position as the 70 some other countries that are begging for a deal.
Even if the economy of China wobbles, because that's what Trump is hoping for that.
Maybe, but their economy has slowed down quite a bit over the last decade, and they're still carrying on.
But quality of life is not improved in that country very much.
Well, for most people in China, their incomes are 2 to 3 times what they were a decade ago. So
yeah, which was nothing a decade ago. Come on, you know what the incomes are. They live week to week over there. I mean, this is what I mean. If those factories start to slow down, those people are laid off. Yeah, you're right. The Chinese government can pump in artificial stuff to keep it going for a little while. But I'll tell you what, they're messing around with that fuse there. Whereas the United States capacity to support its population of 330 million is vastly superior to China. Last word.
Well, I'm not a predictor, but we'll see how this plays out. I think China has a few more strengths than you're giving them credit for.
All right, I appreciate that point of view.
I'm not saying they'll prevail. But,
no, I know, we got it. You think I'm underestimating Trump's advantage here, and you may be right. And we appreciate you coming in, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on X. Look for @Bill O'Reilly.